Hi and welcome to day 31 of my Inktober Tangles 2024 challenge. We have arrived at the last day. How can that have happened? I'm Lisa of Wee Crafty Crow, and today's tangle is a lovely tangle that is called Swarm, and it is by Zentangle HQ. So I'll just get started on this one. So it's a series of lines that you draw parallel to one another, and each line gets a bit longer than the one that came before it, so that you create a triangular shape. And then once you've finished that one, you kind of turn the tile on its side a little bit, and then you're repeating that process, except this time around I've started with the longest line, and now I'm just coming down to a point, and it is as simple as that. This pattern, it's just repeating that step everywhere that you go. And you can see that this triangle, the way that I've drawn it, it's kind of tapered off to the side a little bit more. The point's not in the centre, and the triangle's perhaps a little bit smaller. But it's just about the process of putting down these lines and having them be parallel to one another. Creates that mindful activity, and it's very, very relaxing. I really like this one. It kind of reminds me of, if you have been following Zentangle for a while, you might be aware of Cinderella, which to me, it reminds me of the Wi-Fi signal. So it's the same as this, really, except instead of having straight lines that you parallel, it's curved lines. So this is like almost a variation of that. And I really like that. And what I like about this as well is you can choose to have it so that it's a textured tangle that you fill in every last space that there is on your tile, so that there's a series of triangles all over the place. Or you could have it a bit more freeform, like the way that this is like it's almost like a snake or a backwards S. There's no guideline rather, on the way that you should have this completed. It's all about what you would like to do yourself, because it's your work. And it does draw up very quickly, which is something that I quite like about this as well. I've been working on, I don't think I've put it on my social media yet, but I've been working on a bigger piece, an opus tile size piece, where I've been putting all the different tangles from Inktober Tangles 24. I've been putting them all on this opus tile, and I'm not very practiced with doing projects like that, you know, on such a big scale, when you've got an opus tile which is obviously bigger. Well, I say obviously, maybe you don't actually know what an opus tile is. For people who don't know, an opus tile is, I think it's about 10.5 inches squared. So it's a bigger tile than the ones that I've been working on here. This one is 2 inches squared. And the idea of the opus tile and the Inktober Tangles is that I was challenging myself to see if I could fit all of the 31 tangles into the one opus tile. You see some teachers on YouTube and social media, they've actually, you know, put the title of Inktober Tangles 2024, they've written those words on the opus tiles as well. I've just been putting tangles on. I've not written down what the tangles are relevant for in any way. But yes, I've been putting those tangles together, and I started running out of space. And I thought, where on earth am I going to put everything? So I ended up, instead of using this as like a featured tangle, so to speak, I used Swarm as like a background texture tangle, and I thought that really worked. It was quite nice. So I'm not entirely sure what I think about my Opus tile, because it's a bit busier than my personal preference would be, but it's all good practice. So I will definitely post it on my social media when it's finished. In fact, I might even show in a minute, if I've got it handy. I can show you what the swarm bit looks like. But this one is just so relaxing to do. And when you're tangling at home for yourself, the slower that you do a tangle, the better. I think that works so that it's just very, very relaxing. And I think I might put another little space, fill that space in here. And you can see actually that it's very flexible. You can choose to go out and fill all the edges if you want. I think I might just fill the spaces everywhere. It starts to become, the swarm tangle, it starts to become almost like a puzzle to see where you are going to put down the next lines. Because when you're doing a Zentangle project, as you may have realised by now, you don't have an end goal in mind. You might know the individual tangles that you're going to work with, but you don't know, oh, that's going to look exactly like this and this bit's going to be positioned exactly over here. It's going to be different every time that you do it. And that's what I really like about it. And put some more here, I think, as well. So, I mean, I think I potentially would have put bits, lines down in different positions had I just been taking the time to do this for myself at home. I've said before, I kind of do this faster on camera than I would do when I just at home by myself. So I'm going to try this shading way method. So I'm going to put on the right hand side so that the point is at the top. I'm going to do put a little line of graphite on those bits of each of the swarm shapes. I don't know how this is going to work out, but we'll see what it looks like. I've done a similar shading technique with the Cinderella tangle that I mentioned previously. I've done a shading thing like that with that tangle, and I quite liked it, so I'm just going to go for that with this as well. even this in itself, it's like you kind of go to each different shape, and it's just figuring out, because you've got them in different directions, so it's taking a moment to see where you want to put that graphite. I think so, that's just about done. So then taking your blending stump or tortillon and smoothing that out. Do you see what a difference? Well, maybe you don't like that quite as much as me, but I think that's made such a difference to that already. It just adds a lot of dimension. It kind of reminds me, when you look at the covers, like drain covers, you know, like the kind of metal covers that you see, manhole covers. I quite like it. It's just a wee bit tricky sometimes trying to hold on to the corners of this bijou tile and shade at the same time. Don't want to tear anything. Just going to add a tiny bit of graphite here. Actually, over here as well. I missed that. And just for the balance, I'm going to add some white pastel pencil on the opposite side of each of these triangles. This might look fabulous, or it might look a bit weird, but we'll find out. I'm just going with it. I actually think I'm going to like this when it's finished. There we go. So onto the last bit of this, onto the home stretch. I'm just going round, I've missed that bit here. Just going around each of those individual triangles and smoothing out the pastel pencil. I think that looks quite fun. Just lifts it a little bit. I mean, when you think about the classic Zentangle approach and how it was always the white paper, I love that. I mean, it's just so, what I like about that is it's more of an accessible way of doing Zentangle. Because mostly, if you are just starting out in Zentangle, you're not going to have access to a tan coloured paper. But when I start getting into Renaissance tiles and grey tiles and even black tiles to some extent, I just think it's amazing once you can start adding the white pastel pencil, because it obviously doesn't show up as much depending on what pattern that you have on the white paper. The pastel pencil doesn't show up as much. So I've had fun with this. I hope you enjoyed it as well. You may very well end up doing your swarm and shading it in a completely different way from me. But I've had fun with this anyway. Just realised I missed that bit there. So for now, this is the end of this challenge. So I'm not going to be obviously filming any more Inktober Tangles videos for this year. However, I do plan to do a video once per week, roughly. That's what I'm aiming for. So I'm hoping that you'll join me for future videos that I'm going to put out. Thank you so much for joining me, if you have been joining me, and I hope to see you in the very near future. Please do like or subscribe. All of that is very, very much appreciated. So thank you so much, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.